Jose, how we feeling, bro?
Feel good.
State champ.
Yeah.
What's going through your mind right now, bro? Now that the mission is complete.
Yeah. A lot.
Venimos de nada, pero voy por todo. Tanto que me la pasé en el suelo, encontré un diamante en el lodo. Desde chiquillo sabía que esto es lo mío, no había otro modo. Me puse las pilas y en mi cuaderno de rimas y a darle con todo.
You know, just like reflecting on these last 5 years, enjoying as much as I can my kids. You know, we're on summer break now. Trying to be as thankful as I can to my wife for, the 5 months of sacrifice of, being a full-time mother and full-time worker and taking care of the house and, putting up with me, my late nights, doing anything in the house for, the season. But it feels good. It feels good.
So what brought you over to Meadow Creek High School?
Man, honestly, it wasn't really, I wouldn't say it was even my choice, to come here. We were living in Athens in 5 Points. My wife was in year 2 or 3 of her PhD. I was in year 3 or 4 of teaching at Madison County High School, small rural school right outside of Athens. And I was coaching at Athens United. I was coaching at Emmanuel College. I was, head coaching at the high school there. At that point, I had my National C license. I was ready to step into the National B, and then kind of, leave this whole club and high school scene and kind of start taking my path towards the collegiate scene full time, as an assistant coach, or even maybe in the future as a head coach. And everything was lining up, right? Everything was lining up. And around that time, that 2020 time, I think it's important to it was important for me to remember looking back now. I was new at being a believer. And I was saved in 2017 after years of genuinely thinking I was a Christian. I think I not just fooled myself, but I fooled everyone around me into thinking I was. And it wasn't until I heard the gospel being preached at North Avenue Church consistently in ways that I've never heard it before. And then, I confessed to Christ, I'm lost. I don't know who you are. So leading up 2020, I was kind of going through this real, I don't want to say turmoil, but it was a tough time because I was trying to figure out how to be a Christian. How do I walk life and do a good job of my job, at the same time honor the Lord. And I'm working in the public education world, which is really tough to do. I was trying to figure out my marriage. How do I love my wife as a believer now? We had 2 kids. One was 2, one was a newborn. So I knew whatever move I was going to make was going to be a move that the Lord had to just really make it super clear. And I thought college was the next one. I really did. I thought this was the clear path. I had a couple of conversations with some coaches, some schools up north, a couple of schools in the south, a couple of schools in the Midwest, some really good offers for me to entertain. But then, and I'm not kidding you, this is how I found Meadow Creek High School. It was December of 2020, and I went on Google. And one of the things I've always wanted to do is I always wanted to work in an environment that just reminded me a lot of where I grew up in LA, in Long Beach. Just Hispanic, Latino dominant, where these kids come from the same background that I grew up in, a little bit of that city life, kind of, connected to it. And so I went on Google and I typed in on her laptop, school with most Latinos in Georgia. And it was, boom, Meadow Creek High School. It was the first one that popped up. One of the most diverse schools at that time, one of the fastest growing Latino schools in the state of Georgia, Gwinnett County, one of the fastest growing counties for Latinos. And I clicked on it, and of course, the first thing you see when you click on that web search is the most horrible things that happened at Meadow Creek in the last 25, 30 years of existence, right? Bad students, all the typical things that come kind of along with, the whole Ghetto Creek mentality. So, I clicked on it. I remember leaving it. Went to bed. My wife and I were still talking a little bit about what the future looks like for us. I think we were ready to leave Athens at that point. We wanted to kind of venture out and do our own thing. The next day, I opened up the laptop. I remember seeing the same webpage open. I click on it again, and I start looking at it a little bit more. And it's like, man, it's like this is a Latino school. Like, this is not just a Latino school, but it's also a very immigrant school. And I'm like, that's what I want. Like, I want to work in a place like this. And it was different than Berkmar, different than Norcross, different than any other school in Gwinnett County. So I reached out. I emailed the AD at that time, Dr. Smith. I just sent him an email, and I said, hey, I'm interested in coming to Meadow Creek High School. What are your options? And I emailed him in December 23rd, like 2 days before Christmas. I got an email back from him December 24th, like within 24 hours. Got accepted. And I really wanted to keep soccer on the down low. Like, I really wanted to go there to teach. I really want to come here to teach. I really want to come here to have an impact on this community. But slowly, it went from Coach Rocco asking, like, would you mind helping with just giving me ideas for the practices? And I was like, yeah, of course. To, would you mind just running sessions? Don't come to games. Let me talk to my wife. At that point, I had walked away from coaching just because, 2 kids, my wife finished her PhD. It was a lot. There's a lot going on. We bought our first house in 2021. We moved to Lilburn. I live maybe 10 minutes from here, so super close to the community. But as the semester in 2021 kind of, went along, it went from, would you mind helping, which is practices, to finally, in November of 21, Coach Rocco sat down with me and said, hey, like, you need to be the head coach. Like, this, I think this is what needs to happen. So I went to my wife and I asked her, I was like, look, I promise you I'm not the one looking for it, because I'm good at being at home. I'm good at being a dad. I want to support you in your PhD and help you finish this up. And she looked at me and she said, you miss it, don't you? And I said, I was like, yeah. And it'd been close to a year without any kind of coaching. So she said, go for it, and immediately I went the next day and I told the AD, Dr. Smith, I was like, hey, I'm ready to do this. But when I sat down with him in his office, right downstairs over here, I had a 5-year plan. And it was a pretty detailed 5-year plan. And I was real blunt with him. I told him, this is what needs to happen for you to have success. This is the people that need to be in place for us to have success. This is what we need to eliminate in order for us to have success. And then we needed to have coaches change, and we need to have players understand that we're not just here to play soccer. And it was difficult, right? Because I'm coming in as a Latino man who loves the sport to coach Latino boys, or at least kids who have ties to immigrant parents who love the sport. And here I am coming and telling them, no, soccer's not going to be the only thing you're going to focus on, right? We're going to focus on X, Y, and Z. So the 5-year plan took off.
You said you would like for the school to have its own soccer field house. That's a first, man.
Wouldn't that be nice?
That would be
crazy.
I don't even know what to imagine right now. So what are you thinking? What are we having in there?
I mean,
recovery center.
Oh yeah, I would. So my dream would be like for us to have our own, complete soccer locker room for the boys, a space for the freshmen and JV players to change in, coaches' offices, a recovery center for the boys, a nutrition center for the boys, our own weight room, access to whatever thing you can think of. So no high school program has that. Maybe IMG has that, but IMG's, athletic powerhouse. It's IMG, yeah. Right? But I mean, that's kind of like my vision is for us to be like a IMG, like a private school within a public school.
Yeah.
Where kids can come here, get a public education through GCPS, through Meadow Creek, but then have this little soccer hub where it's just for them to just grow and develop. So,
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I love it though, how when you guys are training, I'm sure the community just sees you guys putting in work, man.
Oh yeah. It's funny because when we do our morning workouts, right, I set the lights up at 4:30 in the morning so they come on. And there's like, you kind of have, you kind of start to pick up on which cars drive over here at 4:50 in the morning, and it's the same ones honking. I think they know, like, oh, they're training right now. They're out there training. So it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool.
That's awesome, man. You said morning workouts.
Yeah.
Before school?
Yeah. Yeah. That's part of the.
That's part of the program, huh?
Yeah. Yeah. Summer.
Wow.
So we'll start our summer workouts the 15th of June. 5 a.m. to 7 a.m. weight room, but they have to be here at 4:45. They got to have their Nike socks on, their navy shorts, the Carolina blue shirt, and if they don't have any of those on, I'm gonna let them train. You know, it's just that small detail aspect to it.
Tweaks.
And the reason, like the morning workout thing, I got it from my dad. My dad would get up early in the morning to look for work. You know, and I would always ask him, I was like, why don't you just start looking for work at 10 a.m.? He goes, because everybody would have taken the jobs I need by 10. So if everyone's getting there at 7, I'm getting there at 5.
Come on.
So it's like, you know,
Yeah.
I can do that. You can get up early in the morning to work out. Your parents have to get up early in the morning to go to work.
Right.
You can do it.
It's amazing.
It started out great. You know, we won region title our first year. You know, I was lucky enough to win region coach of the year and county coach of the year that first year. We went to the Sweet 16. We finished with, like, you know, I think defensive player of the year, midfielder of the year. But the interior part of it was not healthy still, right? It takes time to kind of change these things. And then we had some other problems too along the way that were really detrimental to the program itself. So that's how I ended up here, you know? And it was just, God said no to college soccer, right? He said no to more licenses. He said no to these amazing opportunities that I think any coach at that age would have just loved to have, you know, to go coach at a big university and have the players that you have and the talent that they have and the resources that they have. And for him to say, no, that's not where I want you. I want you to coach high school soccer. I think it was not necessarily a ego check for me, but it was a moment to pause and reflect and be like, this is it. Like, this is where I'm going to. You know, this is high school soccer is going to be my mountaintop in the world of coaching, and it is, and it was. You know, but I wouldn't want it any other way. You know, he opened the right door, and I was lucky enough to be able to recognize that. You know, I was lucky enough to be able to have been saved 2 years before, for me to be more clear-minded and say, what does the Lord want me to do? Pursue A or pursue B? And I think if I wouldn't have been saved, I would have pursued college soccer.
How did you get the community and the players to buy in? That's my first question. And my second question is, you guys are state champs. What's next?
The community buy-in, man. I'm going to connect that to 1989, if you don't mind me connecting with that. You know, my parents came to this country in the mid to late 80s. You know, they're both from El Salvador. And in that time, like 70s and 80s, 90s, El Salvador was just struggling. Man, it was horrible civil war. Poverty was, I mean, out of this world. Opportunities for a good life were non-existent. You know, there was no moving up in your career. There was no pursuing education. It was just limited. So, you know, my parents did what a lot of these kids' parents did, which was they took a chance, you know, and they left everything. They left every single bit of who they are. They left their culture. They left their country, their weather, their food, the access to family members at any given time. And they came to a country that offered them, I would say, a dream. But, you know, talking to my parents now, they tell me all the time, it was a dream that was being offered, but they didn't realize the payment that had to be given. And, you know, I made a post on my parents, I think the night after the Final Four. And, you know, my mom wanted to be a nurse her whole life. That was her goals and dreams, right? To be a nurse. My dad, he never really talks about his goals and aspirations, but just the way he loves the kitchen, I could tell he wanted to do something along those lines. And they gave all that up. They gave everything up just so that they could survive here in this country. And then I come along in 1992. And, I still remember my mom taking me when I was like 5 or 6 years old to houses to go clean houses. And she'd sit me on the couch and she'd turn on El Chapulín Colorado. And she would tell me, don't go into this kitchen, to this fridge. You can go to the fridge in the garage. And there was like little Cokes in there and snacks. I go in there and just drink and eat Coke and snacks and watch Chapulín Colorado for hours. And I remember riding the bus back, and then we take the metro to get back to our apartment complex. And, the way I grew up in LA, man, it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy at all. We were always sharing space with other family members that weren't part of our nuclear family, just because it was tough. There was always more people in the rooms in the apartment than rooms were available. So that struggle has always been part of my story. That difficulty of life and moving from place to place. And so, growing up, there was always 3 things that I clearly remember that were just always consistent, no matter what. Number 1 was food. It didn't matter where we lived at. We always had food, good food, la comida latina, los frijoles, arroz, pupusas, pollo, carne, horchata, lo que sea. And the second thing was soccer. There was always a ball present, no matter what. If the TV was on, I remember the bunny ears, on the antenna. My dad hitting the TV, trying to watch, some Liga MX game or whatever it was. Outside in the alleys playing, outside in the little, spaces on the streets playing soccer and just having a good time. And then the third thing was always the community. It didn't matter how tough of a time you had. Even if family members had some beef or whatever was going on, you always found a way to get everyone together. And it was sweet. And I have great memories of that. Even when we moved to this apartment complex where we didn't have any family there, our neighbor from Mexico, we had neighbors from Guatemala. It could be a random Tuesday night. And then here comes one of them with like 10 pounds of meat. And we're grilling out. It's 10 o'clock at night and we're just having a good time. So, all those 3 things always stuck with us. But as I grew up in LA, I grew up in Long Beach, kind of bounced around from there. Soccer became such a deep part of me. And then my family moved from the West Coast to the East Coast and to the South. I was about 13 or 14 years old, and that was tough. That was really difficult. We went from being the majority of people that look like us to being the absolute minority, right? I got kicked out of school at the first middle school I went to just because, kids were, at that point, I didn't know what bullying was, but they were bullying me for just looking different. I talked like a kid from the West Coast. I had kind of a little bit of that cholo attitude. Got kicked out of that school. Then we moved even more south. Went to a small little rural middle school. And then I went to high school, maybe 600 kids total, and I was one of only 2 or 3 Latinos in that school. So it was tough, man, to really reconcile who God made me to be, this brown man with raíces salvadoreñas. Now I'm living in the South where people like us are looked at differently. There were some people who were so respectful and loving, right? But at the same time, there were some who just looked at me in a different way. And then trying to continue to love the game. Life was really difficult. We went through like extreme poverty living in South Carolina. But along the way, this is the part that I was just so excited about. And it connects to this, the community question. There was always people in the community who gave me what I needed, who gave my family what I needed. I had a pair of cleats that were completely busted up. And my dad tried to fix them with Gorilla Glue. I don't know, the glue that kind of like foams up. And he tried to fix them. And that's how I played, my first year and a half of high school soccer. And it was painful. And then a good coach of mine, he was like the rec coach there, he saw it. And then one day he surprises me with these like silver David Beckham Adidas cleats. No questions asked. Here, And then we were going through a really tough time. My dad was extremely sick. He was in the hospital. We thought he was going to die. And then out of nowhere, this beautiful lady by the name of Stephanie Ramey shows up to our house with just bags of groceries, name brand Cheerios, name brand Pop-Tarts, everything. And it's like little stories like that of just community coming to kind of just, take us under their wing and give us what we needed without even asking for it. Like the Lord was just like pushing these people's hearts to say, hey, go help this family out. They paid for this family paid for my graduation fees. They paid for my Letterman jacket. They paid for any soccer fees that I had. So as I'm went through all that, I didn't forget any of those things. I kind of took mental notes, and I would always ask the Lord, how can I give back one day? Like, how can I take these moments and give it back one day? I'm never going to have the money to just give them like that. So how did I get this community so involved? It's because I was that kid, and I don't just know their stories. I live their stories. And there's that deep connection when I look a kid in the eye and I'm demanding more out of him. I'm demanding more out of you, but hey, listen, I know how it feels. I know exactly what you're going through. I know that you got to go home early to pick up your sister. I know that you coming here early meant that your mom might have used $15 that, is going to be tough to pinch out. I know that you coming here at 5 a.m. means that your mom has to hang out at home just a little bit longer so she can take your sibling to school. But I know all those stories, right? I know all those things. So for us, the three things that I knew were going to be essential here was going to be community, was going to be food, because these kids love to eat. And food for Latinos is just such a staple that brings everyone together, and the game, and I wanted it to be in that order. So how did we get community so involved here? It's because the community saw themselves in this team. The community saw their kids in this team. The community saw something greater than just a game of soccer. And it took a while for the kids to believe it, but I think this is the season where they really believed it. And it's like, hey, this is bigger than us. This is bigger than just winning a state championship. We're getting support from all the Latino community and not just people that people you've never talked to before. It took time to get there, right? We had to cross a lot of barriers to get to that point. But I think persistence in that approach and how we did it was key. Honesty and transparency was key. And then just being as open and available and as vulnerable as I could as the head coach for the program.
These are the coaches right here, I'm assuming?
That's it, yeah. As Will Lovern, Chris, the bald one, then when I had long hair, Coach Calle, and then Coach Carmona at the end. Miss Chuck did that.
That's a good-looking staff, man.
They are. I don't know why they made me taller. I'm the shortest one, but I'm like one of the tallest ones on there. I think the coaches think I made it. I didn't make it though.
And this is still up. I asked Coach. This was the original tournament bracket, and he said it was.
It was, yeah. Coach Bracco, man.
There you see it. Creek against Walton.
It's crazy, man. We beat some good teams on the way, didn't we?
Let's look. Let's go over it, man. Oh. Hold on. So we're over here.
We're right there, yeah. We played Heritage first one, and then we played. Dude, Decula was. I've said it so many times, but Decula was a good team. A good team. For them to finish third in their bracket, like they were phenomenal. We still thought they were the best midfield we played. Then we go to Lambert, that was an interesting game. Their coach has been there for a long time. He's like a soccer legend there. So many state titles, national championships. This was his last season. And you can just feel the energy. Like, those kids were fighting for him one more time. But we went in there and we're like, it's our time to shine, So
took care of business.
Yeah. Then we went back to Carrollton. We were supposed to play them a Friday night in February here for senior night. And then something happened where the game ended up being moved to their place on a Saturday night So it kind of threw things like out of whack. Our kids were not focused. It's just different. We had one of our starting defensive players like super late because he had a rodeo to go to on a Saturday, right? And he already had committed to that. So, it's not like I'm going to be like, no rodeo, come to the game. So we lost the first one in PKs. And then we knew going into this next one, we were going to win. We know we're just a better team. But we knew it was going to be a tough fight, So we beat them 1-0. And then Walton, man. And the Walton game was freaking insane.
Why so?
I mean, you're down 1-0 with like, I think 20-something minutes left in the second half. But never had an ounce of concern. Everyone's asked, was Randy's goal lucky? I'll let Randy answer that, but I will tell you this. Every touch building up to that cross/shot that he had was rehearsed. We worked on that, getting the field as wide as we can, getting a player to run, an underlap run, getting a first touch cross. And then even if the cross or the shot would have missed the goal,
Soccer, man.
We had 2 players in the bag. So,
it was still going in regardless.
Yeah, either way, it was going to go in. So, yeah. So when we got to the PKs,
awesome.
we knew at PKs, we're like, we got this. We're not losing in PKs.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And you guys had, correct me if I'm wrong, y'all went to PKs twice during this playoffs.
Lambert and Walton. 23-24 season and 24-25 season. So the last 2 seasons prior to this one, we were losing almost every PK shootout. Coach Kaye, he's the one that he obsesses about those small details. Right over here. He was the head coach at Discovery High School. Was region coach of the year, the year they won region with Discovery. And, I just pitched it to him. I said, what do you think about coming over and just being an assistant? And he was all for it, it really is crazy, man. Coach Lovern was going to be the next head coach at Central Gwinnett High School. He would have done a phenomenal job there. He has Atlanta United experience. He has coached at a lot of really good clubs at a high level. Coach Ubriaco on the far left with the big beard. He used to be the head coach for the Alcovy girls soccer program. Like when he was there, they were top class. Playoffs, sending kids to college. And then Coach Carmona on the far right, he's been with us since the beginning. He's one heck of a keeper coach. Was really a key aspect of Alex's, development. So all these guys should be head coaches anywhere else. They really should. But, they believe in the vision that we have. Coach Kaye said it really well one day through text message in our team, our coaches group chat. He said he has been blessed by coaching with us just because, it's not about who's better. It's about who has the best option, the best solution. So, there's times where we're making a session and Coach Kaye doesn't like something, I don't get my feelings hurt. It's like he sees a deficiency, let's fill it up, let's tweak it, let's change it, and same thing for anyone else. So, obviously there's moments where we have to stick to a specific plan and not deviate from it. But, I believe that's one of the reasons we've had success is just they're just so good at what they do, so good at what they do. And they're humbled. They're willing to be criticized and corrected. I myself am too. And, it's one of the things I learned fairly quick. If my staff is not better than me, right? If I'm the only loud voice, if I'm the only one bringing the ideas and everyone's just submitting to it, there could be a problem. But if I'm bringing ideas, I'm bringing solutions, and they're bringing ideas, they're bringing solutions, and we all collaborate together to figure out what we need to do, I think that's when you have like a perfect, combination of solutions to have success. So, man, they're good, man. They're good coaches, really good coaches. I don't even think we're halfway through the mountain. If I were to give you a picture, and this is Mount Everest, this is Meadow Creek, we're finally now at the base level. We're finally there, and we're looking at this giant mountain of what the future holds for 20, 30 years. And this next season, we'll finally start our hike. We're starting to find the ascend up. My ultimate dream is for these kids to one day come back and show me their spouses, show me their kids, show me how they're impacting their community, how they're giving back. I want them to feel what I felt when I was in high school, when that coach bought me a pair of cleats and said, don't worry about it, just go live your life. Go do what you want to do. I want these kids to feel that. And they're thinking, how can I get back to my community in 10 or 15 years or immediately now? For us, man, the future, I think championships are going to continue to be part of this. I think those trophies are just going to be the external representation of the work that we do. But I think internally, which is the best part of this whole growth process, it's just going to be, how these kids continue to excel academically, how they continue to get into college, how the community continues to see them, and how they continue to just grow as men. And my prayer is that they continue to grow as men morally, but at the same time, one day, for them to come to realize that there is something greater in life, and it's called Jesus. And I want them to come and submit to him and to give themselves fully to him. And he's going to show them that there is nothing better in this world. No trophy, no first place medal, none of this. All this is going to be insignificant when they finally get a taste of what it's going to be like eternally. That's my 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30-year plan. I see this as my ministry. I see this as my calling. So it's not easy. I have to be careful, right, with how I manage every situation, just because we are in the public sector. But at the same time, GCPS doesn't have me here. God has me here. Meadow Creek doesn't have me here. God has me here. This community doesn't have me here. God has me here. And I know that as long as I'm submitted to him and I'm understanding and I'm in tune with what he wants me to do, I'll be here for as long as he wants me to. So, but I'm excited for the future for sure.
That's amazing. To Meadow Creek, it is beautiful to be able to broadcast this story. We at Athletes for Christ, we thank you. This is the whole reason why we're here. We want to broadcast what God is doing in the athletic spaces. And like you said, beyond a state championship, beyond a region championship, it is the vision that you have given to these men, these young men. What are some new challenges? You spoke that you're at the base of Mount Everest. And where do you want to take this program?
Yeah.
You touched on it a little bit, but
I think that's the $1 million question that our staff and I have been talking about. One of my real close mentors, Dr. Stephen Krause, he said these words to me. He said, be where your feet are at, right? And I hung on to those. And I want my staff to be where their feet are at these next 5 years or however long we're together. When we're in this locker room, we're fully invested in these kids and we're giving our best to them, every ounce. We're loving them, we're caring for them, we're chewing them out, we're giving them encouragement, we're motivating them. When we're in that building doing our work, we're the best teachers in the county and the state. We're doing everything that we can to excel our classroom, our students, and to make the school better. But the moment we leave this field, this locker room, and we're home, we're to be the best husbands. We're to be the best parents. We're to be the best community members. And it's tough to do. It's really difficult to do, man. As a coach, we feel that way of like always thinking the next day, the next day, the next day. I mean, just to give you an example, literally after the state championship game that Friday, I did an interview with Karen. And as soon as that was done, my brain was already going to, what do summer workouts look like? Who are we losing? How do we, who do we bring up from JV in 9th grade? And then like my mind wasn't just thinking about it. I started stressing about it. Oh man, like we got to get these kids ready. The new center back, he's legit, but we got to work on his left foot. So I'm like writing sessions down and I'm thinking financially, oh man, we're going to need more support to continue to do this free for the kids. I got to call this person, this person, this person. And then next thing you know, I get home and I start feeling sick, and I'm home. My son just graduated from daycare, from pre-K. We got family in the house. I'm sitting there. We just won a state championship. And I'm thinking about the next season already, and we're 7-8 months away from it. But I wasn't where my feet were at. You know, I was physically there, but my mind was 1,000 miles away. And that's not fair to my wife. That's not fair to my kids. My kids want their dad home. My wife needs her husband home. My family wanted their son-in-law, their brother, their son home in that moment to just enjoy this great moment. And they weren't even celebrating me. They were celebrating my son who graduated from daycare, you know?
I love the stadium, man.
Oh, it's sweet. You know, this stadium is actual pieces from the Olympics.
No, what do you mean?
So this stadium, the pieces that you see here, they actually came from, I think it was like...
Pieces.
Yeah, they're pieces of the tennis stadium, I think that they used in the 1990
Wow.
Olympics in Atlanta. Yeah, over there on the backside, there's like 4 other sections that are just sitting there. Yeah. So this was all
amazing.
Yeah, this was all donated to the school back in the 90s, and this is what they used for the stadium. So it's got a really cool, it feels like a stadium, right?
Yeah, it does.
It's
It
really
does.
cool, yeah. You know, so in terms of, you know, what we want to accomplish, I'll speak as a coach. We want to win another state championship. That's 100%. And we're going to work towards that. And no one's going to outwork us. That's without a doubt. No staff in the state of Georgia is going to outwork our staff. No player in the state of Georgia, no team is going to outwork our team. What we have in place, the system we have in place, it's a system that can only be broken internally. You know, you can try to copy and paste it and put it into any other school. It's just not going to work. You need the pieces that we have in place. You need the admin in our school. You need the coaches that we have, the community support, the type of kids that we have. You can come here and steal all of our secrets. Heck, I'll give you everything we've done. You're not going to be able to replicate it anywhere else. We want to be national champions at some point. You know, we want to be sending kids to top D1, D2, D3 schools and NAIA schools every single season. We want our kids to go on full ride scholarships. We want our kids to have bigger, better facilities. You know, what I've learned from the church that we go to is our pastor did a phenomenal job of, I'm going to completely butcher this. So, you know, Pastor James, forgive me. It's doing work that is slow, overseen for a long period of time. Right? It's not fast. It's not pretty. It's not sexy. It doesn't attract a lot of people. But once it gets going, it gets going. And you have more, I don't want to say control, but you have more perspective and vision as to like what's coming in, what's not coming in. Who wants a piece of the pie? Who doesn't want a piece of the pie? And that's one of the things we modeled it, and we want to continue doing that. You know, I learned from him, and like, you know, how do I apply this to here? Focus on one thing this year. Focus on another thing next year. Focus on the next thing next year. Keep it focused on just one piece at a time. And I think that's where we're here. And I think these next 5 years are going to be the same thing. How can we focus on the next big deficit that we know we need to really focus on? And then once we get that fixed, if it's a year, 2-year process, then we can move on to the next thing. You know, and I always connected to just sanctification in my life. You know, when I was saved in 2017, clearly my eyes were awakened. My heart was tender. My mind, it felt like, you know, light was penetrating this like dark attic, and I, you know, started to see clearly. But now as I reflect back, right, this has been almost 10 years, this upcoming 2027, the Lord didn't wipe away all my sins immediately, right? I still had, you know, he died for my sins, and he's cleansed me, and I'm now viewed as saved under the work of Christ. But I woke up the next day after being saved, and I still had problems. You know, I still had deficiencies as a human. I still had sinful behaviors that weren't squashed the moment I got saved. But it's been this process for 10 years where the Lord is like, okay, now we can tackle this sin that you've been battling. Now we can tackle this next thing. You know, and I take that mindset and approach to pretty much everything that I do. Winning a state championship was phenomenal. And I think it's a memory I'm going to carry for the rest of my life. And I'm so thankful for all the videos that we have and pictures that I'm always going to be able to look back on. And I know it's not the first one and only one we're going to win. We're going to have more moments like that here at Meadow Creek. But I think the biggest thing I took away from that moment was when I was in the middle of celebrating and just, trying to talk to different outlets and getting the trophy and medals and celebrating with the kids. We got on the bus, we got here. It was this sweet reminder from Christ that my value is held in him, And Paul reminds us in Romans that there's nothing that we are able to do to earn salvation. It was all won on the cross because of Christ. And it's that way because there's no room for me to boast on what I have done to win salvation. Instead, it's even salvation is for the glorification of Christ. Winning this trophy, the spotlight was on the head coach, the spotlight was on the individual players, and it was an amazing moment, but it just reminded me of what if we would have lost? How would have the community responded? They would have hated me. They would have disagreed with every call that I made or the decisions on the subs and all that. And it would have been a different story. But because we won, the people were happy. So they agreed with everything we did, even if it was a horrible call. But to just the coaches out there, man, number one, be where your feet are at. Enjoy some time away from the sport. Spend time with your family. Give back to them. Love them. If you feel that heaviness of just performance, know that there is a God who does not depend on your performance to love you. He is filled with grace. He is filled with mercy. He is filled with absolute so much love towards you. He wants to love you and wants to give you everything that you want. And those desires change once your heart is captivated by him. They're no longer worldly desires. And even sometimes they are. Christ is so kind enough to give us the things that we need. One day, all this is gonna disappear. I mean, I when I'm before, sitting here waiting, I was just looking at everything and be like, one day Christ is coming back, and I'm not gonna have 10 minutes to get in a car and come grab this trophy and take it with me, or roll up this carpet and take it with me, or take one more picture of this locker room. The moment he comes, my mind is gonna be fixated on who Christ is. And I'm going to be called into glory, and I'm going to be brought up into him for eternity. And I hope to see all the players that I've coached there. And I hope to see my sons and my daughter and my wife and people that I've been able to connect, and coaches that I've been able to have conversations with. Truly, this is all momentary. This is just a small piece of what eternal life is. And I think the reason I just feel so content with taking time off and being able to pause and let some things slip away for the sake of being with my family, my identity is not in this. I know I'm called coach, and people, love it that the staff is here and the players that we have are here. But God could say today, leave all this. If my wife, when I get home today, she says, I need you to stop coaching, I need you home, it's done. I'm going to do it. And it will be painful, but my identity is in something greater than this sport. My identity is in a Lord, a creator, a king who knows me in ways that no one else will ever know me, who knows my deepest, darkest pains, secrets, joys. What better way to wake up any day, whether you're a champion or not, whether you've won or not, whether that player is upset with you or not, or whether that parent disagrees with you or not. What better feeling in the world to wake up every single day knowing that I am the son of a living king, So my encouragement to coaches out there is if you know who Christ is, but you feel like you're just stuck in that wheel of performance anxiety and you have to do better, you have to win more, you have to get more, you have to trade more, it's okay to get off of it. It's okay to get off of it. And all you have to do is just turn to Christ. He's not mad at you. He's waiting there with arms wide open. And if you don't know who God is and you're still stuck in that thing, know that there is something greater than this. And then that Lord, our Jesus Christ, he's just waiting. He's patiently waiting for you. So, I'm thankful for this opportunity. This what we're doing at Meadow Creek has nothing to do with me. It has nothing to do with the players. It has everything to do with God. He's just so kind enough to use us as as instruments, along this way. So 5 years have been phenomenal. I'm praying that these next 5 years are explosive, that not only do we win more, but his name is recognized more through this game, through immigrant kids, through kids that look like you and me, through kids that come from a very different background, that his name is just made bigger. I hope someone plants a church in this Middle Creek cluster that focuses on youth ministry. These kids deserve a place to go to church on Wednesday nights here in Middle Creek and don't have to drive anywhere else. Just have something here, a youth pastor that recognizes what this community is like and ways to connect with them. I hope in the next 5 to 10 years we continue to grow and become a staple name of a school that excels in academics with kids that look like us, and people don't run away from us but instead come here. And all of that is only possible through God.
We appreciate you, man.
Heck yeah, man.
May God continue to order your steps.
Oh yeah, that's it. Just submit to him.
For 2026, 7A state champions.
Let's go, man.
The Meadow Creek Mustangs.
It's crazy, huh?
Tengo salud y familia. El que presume mucho no tiene nada. Prefiero buena compañía. Sé que lo mejor es still on the way. Y como Vicente sigo siendo rey. Los que me dudaron le dieron replay. Like what did he say? Hey, this ain't no regular play. If it ain't a bucket, I bet I'ma get an assist. Fresh out depression, I'm back with the pressure. I'm coming for all of the blessings I need. Don't gotta compete if it's for me. I pray for my sons and my OG.